The Star Nations kept their side of the agreement. They're honorable people and operate from very high metaphysical and spiritual principles. The same cannot be said of the four governments involved. There have been firings on Star Visitor craft from time to time, and one of the counselors said to me that the humans say, well, it was a mistake or a misidentification or human error. We didn't mean to do it, but of course these happened and did. One of them was even captured by astronauts who were in orbit in a space shuttle where a neutral particle beam weapon beam comes up from the Earth towards a Star Visitor craft that's hovering at the edge of atmosphere, and it makes a radical right turn at the last moment.
Yeah.
And
I think we've seen that video.
Yeah, a lot of people have seen that. You know, that's just documentation that the deal was violated and that they've continued to fire on them. There, of course, have been various reports of downed UFOs since the 60s, and those were no accidents. It was deliberate shootings because these cabal-type folks want to grab these vehicles and tear them apart and back engineer them and find out what makes them tick and take that technology and reproduce it so that they can have advanced weapon systems to rule the world with.
And flying downrange, we got all three stages of powered flight, and as the dummy warhead and the package flew on down range, we were all celebrating the fact that we had seen the thing and accomplished the mission. When I got back to the base with the film the next day, I was called into the office of Major Florence J. Mansman, and there were three people in gray suits standing in there. There was a 16-millimeter camera and a screen set up. Major Mansman said, "Lieutenant, sit down and watch this." And he turned down the lights, turned on the camera, on the projector, and the film came on. And I recognized it as the film that we'd shot at Big Sur the previous day. Toward the end of the flight, I was looking at Major Mansman saying, "Pretty good stuff, huh, sir?" And suddenly he said, "Just watch this." And as I watched, the warhead, the dummy warhead, the chaff that was put out in front of it as a decoy to deflect the Russian anti-missile tracking radar, everything was flying along, and suddenly, in the same direction this stuff was flying at about 8,000 miles an hour, the object came into the frame, shot a beam of light at the warhead, flew up to the top, shot another beam of light at the warhead, flew around the direction it was flying, shot another beam of light at the warhead, flew down, shot another beam of light at the warhead, and flew out the same way it came in.
Well, I don't see it. Why didn't you see this when you were shooting it?
Well, it was 600 to 800 miles away from us.
Oh, I got you.
They
confiscated.
Well, first of all, the major mansman said to me, "What was that? Were you guys screwing around up there?" I said, "No, sir." And he said, "Then tell me what that was." And I said, "We got a UFO." And he said, "Lieutenant, you are never to speak of this again. As far as you're concerned, this didn't happen."
Hold on, guys. I'll be right back. I got to take a break. Okay, that's weird. You think there's a national defense plan for aliens? Sounds crazy. We'll ask about that next.
With me, I very early on knew that to deny the reality of UFOs and other phenomena that occurs would be denying myself.
So as a communicator, you're definitely...
You don't always tell the others what's going on. Remember I told you feel it?
You feel, yes, you feel what they feel, and they feel what you feel.
Mm-hmm. And so, you don't always address it, because one of the things that you may feel like, if they're saying that they are a guest, if our military is saying, well, this is one of our guests, they're not treating that entity as a guest. And what's happening is that you are feeling what that entity is feeling.
Uh-huh.
And one situation, I even helped one of them escape, and that right there was not telling them everything that was being said.
I'm curious, what went on when you dealt with that? Was it, first of all, what kind of an entity was it? And I understand that they're being held prisoner, but how was it that you were able, and in fact, Dan Bursch talks about the same thing.
Well, I don't know whether it was a Stargate or what, but in order, on the inside where we had this entity, if we were to, and there's a tape that talks about this, which gives a whole lot more detail, but we went ahead, and if they were to try to extract this entity from inside where we were at, then there'd have been people killed. And this entity would not accept that. And you could feel what was going, you could feel what it felt. That's the best way to put it. And I'm trying to tell this without going into any real certain details. But I convinced the person that I always called the Colonel, and all throughout that's what I was calling. We went ahead and I said, you know, he needs to show me something, but everybody has to be cleared from here. It's just got to be me and him. And everybody went ahead, left. There was one Spec 5 that stayed there to help me, and I said, we've got to cut this screen fence back here, or the storm fence, and we can get in trouble for that. I says, yeah, I know, that's why I'm asking you to just drop off the bolt cutters and then beat feet. Well, he didn't. He went ahead and he cut the wires for me, and we got the entity outside. By the time they found out that we had the entity outside the perimeter, they went ahead and was very upset. And now they were even to the point where they even tried to shoot the entity, but the entity was now in a position where it was a bright, bright, bright light that came down, and I didn't even get to see the craft. And maybe it was because I just wasn't looking. But all of a sudden, this entity was there, then it wasn't. Then, of course, the guy I always called the Colonel, he went ahead and told me, well, I'd be court-martialed, then, well, we're going to overlook it this time, but don't let that happen again. And, of course, I was chastising him. If they're supposed to be our guests, why were we treating them cruel and treating them as prisoners? As a matter of fact, even worse than prisoners. I have never seen either movie of the Manchurian Candidate.
Okay.
And the one thing that we had identified by the time I got out, 57 different species. And they were affectionately called the Heinz 57. I understand there's some phrase in one of those movies about that. gee, I'd love to say there's only 2 or 3 races, or only 4 or 5, or even 1. I'd love to say that. But with what I know, if I change anything that I do know, then it's not reality. It's just going ahead saying things that people want to hear.
Uh-huh. Well, why would you say you would want to say there was only 1 or 2?
Oh, well, some people, well, we could find your story more believable if you could say.
I see.
And, gee, can't this entity be gray because it'd be more believable?
Uh-huh.
What do you want, a story that's believable, or do you want the truth?